guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. As you can tell from the title, today we're going to be talking about what exactly is the litRPG genre, and also going to be discussing one of my favourite book series, which is Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. So grab a cuppa or a snack and let's get into the video. So one of my favourite hobbies besides reading is gaming, especially first and third person shooters and adventure RPGs. So what do you get when you mix books with RPGs? You get a lit RPG, which is a literary role-playing game. The lit RPG genre, to which Dungeon Crawler Carl belongs, is a rapidly growing field which blends traditional storytelling with one or more aspects from a role-playing video game. And in this case, Dungeon Crawler Carl exhibits a leveling up system where the players will increase their strength and stats by doing quests and completing missions, as well as gaining better equipment from loot boxes as they go along. The characters also have to complete some side quests along the way in order to progress to the main story quest. Also in book number 6, The Eye of the Bedlam Bride, they introduce a card magic system, which is pretty cool, and it's like a deck builder video game. Fans of video games and fantasy novels alike will find much to love with lit RPGs, as it offers an engaging and immersive reading experience. These books provide a unique blend of strategy, adventure and character growth, where readers get to experience the thrill of gaining new abilities and overcoming stronger enemies and even bigger challenges. What makes the lit RPG genre so compelling is its ability to appeal to both casual and hardcore gamers, as well as fantasy and sci-fi enthusiasts. The genre's mechanics create a sense of progression and achievement, while the rich world building and character development keeps the readers invested. Dinniman elevates this formula by injecting a healthy amount of satire and self-awareness and character-driven storytelling that just sets Dungeon Crawler Carl apart from other entries in the genre. Like myself, Dungeon Crawler Carl may have been your first introduction to a lit RPG, but there are plenty out there. Some other fantastic lit RPGs you should check out: The Wandering Inn by Pirate Abba, and also He Who Fights with Monsters by Shirtaloon. I was lucky enough to meet Shirtaloon at PAX Australia last year, it's a gaming convention around the world, but I was in the Australian one, and yeah, got him to sign a card for me. I'll put up a picture here of me and Shirt. So He Who Fights with Monsters she's chunky, but a good read. Very entertaining. It's got an Australian MMC with, you know, the classic Aussie humour and banter, which is, you know, perfect. So what is there not to love about that? Also, the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, as well as the He Who Fights with Monsters series, are on Kindle Unlimited. Well, at least they are here in Australia. Whereas the Wandering Inn series you can get for about $6, I think, on the Kindle app or through Amazon. Before I continue, I just want to say a massive thank you to all those who support the channel. And if you like my bookish content, please like the video or subscribe to the channel, where you can see some more book reviews, some recommendations, reading vlogs, all things bookish the moment a new video drops. So, okay, it's time. So let's talk about the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. This will be mostly spoiler free. I think that everything I'll be saying is pretty much on the covers of the books or in the description of the books. So I'm just going to cover the plot, the premise, the characters, a few of them anyway, and not spoil too much. But yeah, let's talk about Dungeon Crawler Carl. So Dungeon Crawler Carl starts in the early hours of the morning on the 3rd of January in Seattle, Washington, where we're following a man named Carl who lives in a 2-bedroom apartment with his ex-girlfriend's cat, Princess Donut. So on this particularly cold and wintry early hours of the morning, Princess Donut decides to escape out of the apartment and jump out the window into a nearby tree. To go and get the cat before it freezes to death, Carl has to quickly run outside. So he gets outside and he's only wearing boxer shorts, a leather jacket, and hastily put on pink Crocs that used to belong to his ex-girlfriend. So Already a funny start. Just as he gets outside of the apartment, the world is taken over by aliens. Anyone who was inside or had any type of roof over their heads was killed instantly. All the buildings and structures were crushed down into the earth, including cars, trains, tents, and even cardboard boxes. The event was called the Transformation. And I love this quote from the book which describes this event happening, and I'll read it for you. It was like the building was a massive tin can that had been crushed by a giant cosmic boot. The survivors who happened to be outside at the time of the transformation then heard an AI announcement and were given the choice to go into what they call the dungeon or try and survive out on the surface with nothing. So Carl's options being freeze to death or go into the dungeon. He goes down into the dungeon and takes the cat Princess Donut with him. Okay, so just a quick overview of the plot. The dungeon is an 18-level world dungeon. Unknown to Carl will be where they'll be forced to fight for their lives on a sadistic intergalactic game show, which is televised and live streamed to the galaxy. Carl will have to make his way through the dungeon, encountering mobs and strange enemies, as well as other human contestants, which are called crawlers. The goal is to stay alive and to progress through each of the level of the dungeons using these staircases, trying to stay alive and negotiate an exit deal from the dungeon if they get low enough, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So I think this is where you see the RPG aspects coming into this book. It's reading like a video game. You got to fight enemies and characters progress down the levels, with each dungeon level getting harder and harder as they progress and enemies getting stronger. So they need to level up their abilities and their gear in order to become stronger as well, or they will be killed. What I really like about this series as well is that, Carl also has an inventory. All the contestants have an inventory, so they can pick things up and put them in their inventory, so that's pretty cool. So very much like an RPG video game. I found myself so invested in Carl and Donut's story, and I read through all 1 to 6 books back to back because I just needed to know what happens. And book 7's recently come out and I have not read it yet, but I've been holding out because my TBR is just ridiculous, but it's going to happen very, very soon, so don't worry about that. It's a definite page turner series and you will go down a rabbit hole just like I did and hopefully fall in love with this book series as much as I have. Okay, so world building. Let's talk about world building. So the dungeon. The dungeon is essentially a game. It's a set of rules that Syndicate law, the Syndicate being the unified greater galaxy. And Syndicate law is enforced by the system AI, an artificial intelligence capable of altering the physics and reshaping the matter inside the dungeon. The rules are intended to make the game fair for the crawlers and also engaging and entertaining to the viewers. So like I said earlier, the world dungeon has 18 levels and it's created just below the Earth's surface, just after the transformation. The transformation was an instant collapse of all the Earth's structures, as we said before, and anyone who was inside at the time was killed instantly. So from the side of the dungeon, it looks like an inverted triangle, and for the most part, each level gets smaller and smaller as they go. The first level just below the Earth's surface obviously is the largest, with the 18th floor being the smallest and the closest to the Earth's core. The only options for crawlers is to play and try and make it to level 18 or close to. No one has ever made it past level 13 though. The crawlers who receive like a higher viewing rating may receive loot boxes and special items from their sponsors, because each crawler has a few sponsors out in the galaxy that people sign on when they really like the look of that person. And they may receive better loot boxes from sponsors and survive long enough to negotiate an exit deal. An exit deal being where they negotiate to leave the dungeon, but in return they have to work a certain amount of years or decades for the production company it's pretty much slavery, so they have to do everything they're told and, you know, be NPCs in, you know, the next dungeon and, you know, do all these other things. So no one's ever really free. They either die or become enslaved. So I don't know, happy, right? Okay, so let's talk about the characters. The main protagonist is Carl. He's an American guy from Seattle who recently broke up with his girlfriend after finding out on her social media that she's currently hooking up with her ex-boyfriend. So not a great start to the book for Carl. And he's living in this 2-bedroom apartment that he used to share with his ex-girlfriend Beatrice, or B for short, and her cat named Princess Donut. Carl is generally a good guy. He has his flaws, as we all do. So it was really great watching his story, and I got really invested actually in his story. And the second protagonist is the cat. So it's Princess Donut. Princess Donut is Carl's ex-girlfriend's stuck-up Persian show cat, and I love that because she's just really hoity-toity. Her full name being Princess Donut, the Queen, Anne Chonk. I'll put it up on the screen. It's a mouthful, but in this series, you know, she's just referred to as Princess Donut, or Donut for short. Donut is living with Carl because B is still on her vacation in the Bahamas with her friends and her ex-boyfriend. So she hasn't come home yet to collect Donut. When all this happened, Donut was with Carl, and Carl carries Donut down into the dungeon with him so she's not left to fend for herself on the surface with nothing. And pretty much instantly, as soon as they go down into the dungeon, Donut receives a legendary pet box, which contains an enchanted pet biscuit, which turns her into a talking, sentient cat. Talking cat. Have I not already dragged you into how good this series is? But remember what I said, that she is posh and stuck up and very hoity-toity. So she says what we think cats are thinking. So it's brilliant. This book is great. The banter is just fantastic. Another character I need to talk about is the system AI. It is one of my favourites. So AI, being artificial intelligence, is what operates the World Dungeon and awards achievements and loot boxes to crawlers, and generally acts as the main force, keeping the dungeon deadly and also entertaining for the viewers and the galaxy. The AI is generally snarky and petulant, and hilariously we find out that he has a foot fetish pretty early on, and he becomes pretty interested and invested in Carl, which made me laugh out loud on more than one occasion while reading this book. So also there are mobs and bosses in the dungeon. Mobs are common monsters who typically share common descriptive names and whose primary purpose is to be killed for experience or loot or to complete quests. In the dungeon, bosses are powerful mobs that the crawlers need to defeat to complete certain quests or to access the stairwell to go down to the next level. The mobs and bosses all have their own lore and background story, which I found really funny and entertaining to learn about as well. All right, now we get into a bit of the news, I guess, about this series. I definitely think this series is underrated, but it has been gaining momentum in the booktube community, which is 100% deserved, and I'm so excited that it's growing and people are becoming more aware of this series and the litRPG genre itself. So Dungeon Crawler Carl started out as an indie series, which Matt Dinniman obviously self-published, which is what this is here. But he has recently been picked up by Penguin Random House. The hardcover editions of the first 3 books have been released, so that's pretty exciting, and I can't wait for the rest of them to come out. So the hardcovers are these ones right here. There's another one. Ooh, they're so pretty. But yes, I love these. They're just so bright, just like really cool. I love the pink as well. Also, fun fact, if you have one of these new hardcovers of the first book, you can tell if you have a first print or not by the cover foiling. So if your foiling, which it says "you will not break me," if your foiling is pink, then you know you have a first print. So that's pretty exciting. So only the first round of prints were with pink foiling. Matt Dinniman actually says this on a litRPG live takeover video with Matt and Jeff, which I will link in the description below so you can have a watch of that. But yeah, I thought that was super interesting, super cool, but don't watch it if you haven't read the books because it gives like some serious spoilers to book 6, so please don't do that. But I will link it, just don't watch it if you haven't read the series, okay? Just trust me, all right? Matt Dinniman has also got a highly successful Kickstarter campaign for the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, which I immediately pledged to. I think it started October in 2023, so we've been waiting a while, but there's a lot been happening, a lot's going on. And from the latest update that was shared, I don't think we'll be receiving anything earlier than April or May this year. Here's a picture of the Kickstarter, so it's pretty cool. I'm not sure if they're still taking pledges or not, but you know, still happening in the works, and I'm excited for that. It was also announced recently that Universal International Studios has purchased Dungeon Crawler Carl with Seth MacFarlane's Fuzzy Door and Chris Yost also involved. Chris Yost is the screenwriter who is best known for Marvel's Thor Ragnarok and The Mandalorian, which is exciting. And yeah, they're planning to develop a TV adaptation, so I'm so excited. I think all of us are freaking out, people who love this series. Can't wait for that. There's also talk of a comic book in the works, which I think will be really cool. Also, I would not be doing my job right if I didn't also talk about the audiobooks for this series. They're narrated by Jeff Hayes, who is the founder, CEO, and voice actor narrator for the Sound Booth Theatre. The Dungeon Crawler Carl audiobooks are just my #1 top favourite performances ever. They are in the absolute elite category for execution and performance. Jeff Hayes is so talented and he voices the entire cast of characters himself and manages to give them all their unique voices and unique personalities as well. His performance is phenomenal, and he's especially talented when it comes to female voices. His Princess Donut is just perfect. Like I said before, she's posh, she's snarky, she's got a lot of attitude, and Jeff Hayes just brings her to life. Also, Jeff Hayes' version of the System AI lives rent-free in my head. So if you've read these books, you will know that the System AI gives out achievements, and every time in my real life that, you know, I complete a task or I do something, I just think new achievement, and it's just never goes away, and it's great because I love it. So in my opinion, Dungeon Crawler Carl is a must read for fans of lit RPGs and anyone looking for a series that combines action, humor and heart. Whether you're drawn to the intense battles, which there are many, clever writing, or the sheer insanity of the dungeons challenges, this series delivers on all fronts. With each book, Matt continues to surprise me and shock me and keep me entertained, and it's just a wild ride and it's just so good. It's got all the emotions. It's definitely not a fluffy book. It's not a really happy book. There are really funny things that happen, but there are some real like proper, you know, sad emotions as well. A lot of bad things happen because, you know, these people are fighting for their lives in a dungeon. So it goes through all the emotions, and it's a wild ride for the reader, but I highly recommend it. But just to be aware that Dungeon Crawler Carl is an adult series, like with adult humour. There's no shortage of swearing, but considering the situation that Carl and the other characters are in, I think it's 100% warranted. Some of the swearing in this book, it's not overdone, it's just perfect, and you know, I feel like that's how a lot of us would react if we were in that situation. So yeah, not a G-rated series, and there are some other interesting and funny things that happen in the book as well, which are definitely not G-rated. So if you haven't yet embarked on Carl's wild adventure in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, now is the perfect time to do it because the 7th book has been released, and yeah, we might be getting a TV adaptation, there might be a comic book coming out, we've got more hardcovers coming our way from Penguin Random House, so it's so exciting. It is the time to get on board. Unfortunately, because these covers are the indie published, they're really hard to find these days, so if you don't already have books 1 through 6, I really hope you can find some copies because they're very rare these days. With the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, just be prepared for an unforgettable ride and a newfound appreciation for a talking cat with the sassiest of attitudes. But that's enough from me. What do you think? Does Dungeon Crawler Carl sound like a series that you would be interested in reading? And if you have read it, let me know in the comments down below so we can talk about it. And did I do it justice? Did I do justice to the masters, Matt Dinniman and Jeff Hayes? And as always, thanks guys for watching and for hanging out with me, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye!